Time now for the live coronavirus update for San Antonio and Bexar County.
With Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolf. Tonight we're joined by Dr. Anita Kurian, who's our Assistant Director of San Antonio Metro Health, and this is our COVID-19 update for the San Antonio community. Tonight we are reporting 1,210 new cases of COVID-19 in our community, which brings our total to 88,196 since the pandemic began. That number was just north of 81,000 just 1 week ago. With a 7-day daily average that is now 993, the number of new COVID-19 cases is clearly growing rapidly. Fortunately, we do have no new deaths to report tonight. However, the number of COVID hospitalizations is now above 600 for the first time in quite some time. We have 614 COVID-19 patients in the hospital tonight, which is up 38 from the weekend. We have 207 patients in the ICU and 105 on ventilators. And within the last 24 hours, we've seen 85 new additional patients in our hospitals. It's Monday, so let's take a look at the progress and morning indicators. The big change is that the positivity rate has increased from 9.2% last week to 15.7% this week. That puts us in red for critical in terms of the overall level of severity in our community. The other indicators remain the same, so the overall risk level remains moderate and continues to worsen. Now for an update on the emergency we're facing involving our community's blood supply, which has been critically low as blood drives are canceled because of the pandemic. The good news is that more of you are responding to our appeal for blood donations, but we now have just over a 3-day blood supply in terms of total inventory, which is the minimum required to meet the needs of hospital patients. The South Texas Blood and Tissue Center is working to create a 7-day supply, which is considered adequate for our community. The inventory of type O blood, which is used in emergencies, has increased slightly, but is dangerously low at a 1.5-day supply. These inventory levels mean that the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center can immediately fill between 50 and 75% of the orders hospitals place for blood. The last half of December is the slowest time of year for blood donations, and we need to turn around that to meet the needs of our patients in the hospitals. And that's why the City of San Antonio holds blood drives for city employees every year during December and January. And I'd like to thank our city employees for stepping up to donate. If you're able, please help us keep the momentum and do everything you can to help us by scheduling a blood donation. You can go to southtexasblood.org or by calling 210-358-2812. Let me turn it over now to Judge Wolf.
Well, these are very disturbing numbers. 15.7%. It's a jump of over 50% within 1 week. And then when you look at the hospitalizations, 38, and actually we'd be having a lot more in relation to what we had from El Paso, because El Paso went down 50. If they were still there, we'd be pushing over 660 or so. So it's really going very, very much in the wrong direction, and really some danger signs out there. I think we're beginning to see the early effects of Thanksgiving. That was Thursday, was a week ago, 7 days. Now we're 10 days. So I don't know, it just doesn't look promising for the future. Based on, I think I wrote a letter back on June the 13th and asked Metro Health what circumstances would be used to opt out of the bars that are not serving food, which is not a lot, but there are some. And they wrote me back on the 17th of November saying if we have 2 weeks in a row at 10%, you should. Well, the last 2 weeks averaged 12.55. So in consultation with Metro Health and the mayor and everybody else, I'm notifying the TABC that effective this coming Thursday at the December the 10th at 11 that will opt out of this. I've sent them the letter to that effect. I'll be filing an emergency order to that effect again tomorrow. Now, what happens to the bars? There's over 2,000 bars and restaurants, and most of them are all serving food. But for the few number that are not, they will be required to either get a food permit or have a contract with a vendor that will provide them the food. and spoke with TABC today, and it will give them some time if they decide to take that measure and do that. Then they'd be able to stay open. But if they don't, they'll have to be closing effective next Thursday if they choose not to at least either have a food license or contract with a food vendor.
Great. Thank you, Judge. And we've seen all around this state at this point, the positivity rate and the number of cases is jumping rapidly. We believe we are starting to see the beginning of the Thanksgiving weekend and the infections that had occurred, the transmission that occurred during that time. And just as a reference, our 15.7% positivity rate in Bexar County is matched by most of the major urban areas in Texas at this point. 18% in Tarrant County, about 14.2% reported in Harris, 22.3% in Dallas County based on the tabulations that we're receiving from the public data available. So please be careful out there. This is no time to let up. We know vaccines will be here at some point, but it is always darkest before dawn, and you need to do everything you can to protect yourself, your family, and your neighbors from this dreaded virus. So, and we also want to remind you that there is assistance available for you if you are struggling through this pandemic and are having trouble paying the bills or paying rent. We have an emergency housing assistance program. You can get more information on that by calling 311. We also have a job training program available for you to get skills in jobs that are available right now. While you are training for those skills, you will also receive a stipend, a paycheck, to go through that training program with a job ready when you are finished with that program. You can get more information on that job training program by calling 311 or enroll by calling 210-224-HELP. As always, you can get the latest on COVID-19 in our community by texting COSA-GOV to 55000 or by going to the website covid19.sanantonio.gov. This is a critical time, as we know, during this pandemic, and we need you to keep your mask on.
This briefing is continuing right now at KENS5.com and our Facebook page. We just got an update on what Judge Wolf is calling very disturbing numbers. Firstly, that positivity rate went from 9.2 to 15.7%. That's the number of people who are getting tested, and it's coming back positive. That number almost doubled. Our number of new cases, 1,210 overnight. That's up nearly 7,000 compared to last week. Our total is now 88,196. Last week it was around 81,000 total cases. A drastic increase in those numbers. We've got the full story at KENS5.com. We'll be right back after this break.